We're going to begin today with a discussion of the musical alphabet. And this is a very simple, very easy concept, but it applies to a lot of other more complex concepts. So we're going to cover it quickly so we have it at our disposal, and then we're going to move on. First things first, here's an alphabet that you probably already know. It has 26 letters. There's a cute tune to which you can sing those letters. It's the foundation for all of our words in the English language, and most importantly, it is not the same as the musical alphabet. The musical alphabet only has 7 letters: A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Just those 7, not 26, just 7. And another important distinction is that the musical alphabet is a repeating cycle. So when you're at the end and you get to G, you just start over at A again and repeat the pattern over and over again. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 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 and so on and so forth. Please notice there is no H or I or J or K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, none of them. Just those 7 letters, A through G, over and over and over again in a repeating pattern. Believe it or not, that's all there is to know about the musical alphabet. But before we move on, let's make sure we understand the key points. Number 1, how many letters are in the musical alphabet? The correct answer is 7. Number 2, what are those letters? The correct answer is A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And lastly, number 3, what happens after G? The correct answer is you start back over with A and continue to repeat the pattern over and over again because the musical alphabet is a repeating cycle. That's really all there is to that. So now we're ready to move on to the notes on the keyboard. Knowing how the pitches are laid out on the piano keyboard is important for all musicians, not just people who play the piano. So this is another thing that we want to cover, so we'll have it at our disposal because it will be useful as we cover other concepts. Here is a chunk of the piano keyboard. It's not the entire piano keyboard because a full-size piano has 88 keys, but this chunk will get us started, and there are a couple things to notice right away. Number 1, you have white keys, and you have black keys. Pretty easy to see. If you're observant, you'll also see that the black keys are laid out in a pattern. You have groups of 2, which are highlighted here in blue, and groups of 3, which are highlighted here in green. And notice that they alternate. You have a group of 2, and then a group of 3, then a group of 2, another group of 3, and so on and so forth. That pattern is going to be important in a moment, so hold that thought. And we're going to take a little side trip into the world of American literature and discuss a poem called Paul Revere's Ride by the poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And this may seem a little crazy, and that's probably because it is. But I promise you, there is a point. So without further ado, here is an excerpt of the poem Paul Revere's Ride by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere on the 18th of April in 75. Hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day or year. He said to his friend, "If the British march by land or by sea from the town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the Old North Church as a signal light. 1 if by land, and 2 if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be, ready to ride and spread the alarm to every Middlesex village and farm, for the country folk to be up and arm." Now, what on earth does that have to do with what we're discussing? It's that key phrase, 1 if by land, 2 if by sea, one of the most famous lines of the poem. Except we're not talking about the word sea as in a body of water. We're talking about the letter C. 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. Why is that important? Let's look back at the keyboard. Remember that the black keys are laid out in groups of 2 or 3. Every time you see a group of 2 black keys, the letter C is immediately to the left on that first white key to the left of those 2 black keys. That's why it's important to remember 2 if by C. Because if you can find a group of 2 black keys, you go to the white key immediately to the left, that's C, and then you can fill in the rest of the musical alphabet. So after C comes D, and then E, and then F, and then G, and then remember, start over at A, and then B, and then C, and so on and so forth. So the musical alphabet comes in handy here. So with this information, you should be able to identify any key on the piano keyboard. So let's give it a shot. What key is highlighted in red? If you said E, then you are correct. Remember, you find your two black keys, you go immediately to the left, that's C, work your way over, and the highlighted key is E. Let's try another example. If you said that that key is D, then you are correct. Find your two black keys, you find C. In this case, this key is right next to it, and it is D. Let's try one more. If you said that that key is G, you are correct. With time and with practice, you won't even need to go through all the steps. You won't need to find the two black keys and then find C and then work your way over. You will just be able to look at a key and know which pitch it is. So, give yourself plenty of practice. Every time you pass a piano in your house or in your church or at your school, take a look at it. Practice identifying a few keys so that eventually that process can become automatic for you. Before we move on, let's make sure we understand the main points about the notes on the keyboard. Number one, what two types of keys are on the piano keyboard? The answer there is black keys and white keys. Number two, in what pattern are the black keys laid out? The correct answer is you have groups of 2 and groups of 3, and they alternate back and forth. A group of 2, a group of 3, a group of 2, a group of 3, and so on. Number 3, what is the significance of the phrase, 1 if by land, 2 if by sea? The answer there is if you can find a group of 2 black keys, you go immediately to the left, and that white key is C. And then from there, you can fill in the rest of the musical alphabet, which enables you to know which letter is represented by any key on the keyboard. And that is all there is to the notes on the piano keyboard.